have many worms in the brain box, but one in particular has been very loud lately. The worm speaks of sequelitis, a very, very old series of YouTube videos about game design. A series that ended in a metaphorical bomb going off. The worm looks like Brendan Fraser. I want to examine the crater, but before I do that, I gotta show you what things were like before the explosion. We're going way the fuck back, over a decade ago, when the media analysis sphere ball of YouTube was still in its infancy. Cinemassacre, Normal Boots, Channel Awesome, these old-ass channels were primarily focused on the act of talking about media as a form of entertainment, rather than as deep critique. More in-depth analysis wasn't unheard of, but it definitely wasn't as common. You know, the term video essay had yet to curse the modern lexicon. So Aaron Hansen rolls up. By the way, I know a lot of people have strong opinions on the man, but it doesn't matter for this, so I don't care. Pause if you care. So Raptor rolls up, makes a video game show. He does things the different.
Castlevania 1 was so fucking cool. It was fresh and exciting, and it felt great.
Whipping dudes, yeah, I'll get out of here!
The best part, though, was that it clearly had a lot of thought put into it. For better or for worse. See, the thing you gotta realize about games in the NES days is that last stability was even then a big issue. Games were anywhere from 30 to 60 bucks, and that shit's steep. You couldn't pay for that shit with your fucking lunch money. The NES cartridge didn't have a lot of space, so developers had to mind their limits, but also try to make a game that lasts a long time, so people felt like they got their fortunes worth.
He kicks the door down. His first outing, he's talking about the kinds of challenges developers were faced with to provide context for why the shit he's talking about is exceptional. This wasn't normal back then. Dude's like, I want to be funny cartoon man and do genuine analysis. And it's like this fresh, kind of new thing. I know. Ancient history. These videos were huge. They're still huge. Look how many number they got. This is one of the first cartoon guy on lower third of screen rants at you about media YouTube videos ever. Citation needed. They're also really old. He doesn't even cross his arms at me. And their age just shows as fuck.
No, shut up! I don't need you!
But they also had a good amount of genuinely interesting observations and critiques hidden between all the fuck and the poop jokes.
They drop these enemies that have these long legs. They walk real slow, so you get just the right amount of time to realize that your shots are going through their legs. They're not hitting them. So you just try the big dumb head and bam, they're dead. So now you know that there are certain enemies who need to be attacked at certain sweet spots.
The one on Mega Man X is used in colleges to this day, both in English-speaking countries and beyond, because it's genuinely that fucking good of a crash course on tutorialization. And one of the only examples that didn't feel like homework. Like, yeah, you can make the argument that they aren't very funny anymore and that this kind of presentation isn't novel anymore, and you'd be mostly right, but also a little wrong, and that's on you. The point is, this was an inflection point for a lot of people. These videos turned relatively obtuse concepts like the design of character movement, tutorialization, art direction, and conveyance into something approachable, something layman can easily understand, internalize, and use to have less dogshit arguments on fucking NeoGAF. It was cool. It was awesome. People still use NeoGAF. So 3 videos come out, right? They're all pretty good. Then, number 4. It's a video critical of Ocarina of Time, which is one of the most beloved, influential, groundbreaking video games of all time. This video was uploaded on purpose. This would be an uphill battle, but that's fine. Like, look, if the point of the series is to prompt earnest discourse about games, then all you gotta do is just keep your audience in mind, and you'll be fine.
Hey, hey, what are you doing over there?
Oh, I'm just writing my preemptive counter-argument about how you're wrong about my favorite game of all time and the best game ever.
Oh, okay. Well, don't you think that's a little, I don't know, closed-minded? I mean, I get you probably liked this game as a kid, but isn't it time we looked at it critically and made a fair analysis of how—
No!
That's not what I meant. This is probably, and I'm not exaggerating here, this is probably the absolute worst way possible to handle this. You just witnessed Aaron create the bomb. He spends the next 25 minutes of the video priming it for detonation. I don't need to tell you the reaction to this video. He kicked the gamer's nest. More people liked it than not. No surprise there. Short of flashing a dead body on screen, that's how these things tend to play out. For most videos, this kind of reception is a win. But not for videos where the goal is to spark constructive discourse.
I hope I can make you laugh and make you think, and not make you angry, because that wasn't my intention, but if I did, I'm sorry.
A vocal minority of people outright rejected this video, writing it off as an overly biased, bad faith, dishonest rant about a game Aaron doesn't have the patience or skill to appreciate. Then a vocal minority of those people saw that response and clapped back with their own hot take. It never stopped. Clapback after clapback forever. A round of applause, but it sucks. A standing ovation for a car crash. I've seen it on Reddit, I've seen it on Twitter, I've seen it on NeoGAF, I've seen it on YouTube. And not once in any of the discussions, groupthinks, back and forth, exchanges, contentions, debates, quarrels, dialogues, groupthinks, shouting matches, reviews, disputes, flame wars, altercations, or analyses have I ever seen anyone identify what I believe to be the actual source of the problem. For my money, this whole 10-year slow burn shitstorm could have been, if not entirely, at least mostly sidestepped, if only the video itself had been presented slightly differently. And that's what I find so interesting about this whole thing. It's not like everyone would have just suddenly agreed with the video and held hands and had sex. It's a hot take. People will disagree. But if Aaron had presented himself and his ideas differently, we might have lived in a world where this video truly sparked a productive conversation. Sun Tzu once said, "To befriend thy opponent, one mustn't depict them as the hunchback of Notre Dame and then proceed to ignore their perspective." Say what you will, but that boy could sing. Sun Tzu. He said his own name at the end, like a Pokemon. This is actually not me. This is a cartoon. Anyway, we'll be right back with... That's not the...
Something to think about if you throw trash on Texas highways. Somebody up there is going to be watching.
Do you ever wish you could game... Introducing the ROG Ally X. You may recognize it from the ROG Ally X. This is actually a deep cut for fans of the ROG Ally X. Look at friend Ed. Notice his many flaws. Now look at him with the Ally X. He is the same, but now he has the Ally X. This new cool and awesome handheld apparatus features an 80-watt-hour battery, which is a lot, 24 gigabyte of RAM, which is a lot, and up to 1 terabyte upgradable storage. Whoa. Gaming has never been more cool nor awesome.
To get your ROG Ally X, visit rog.gg/NoodleAllyX. Now featuring a new signature color, the Ally X. Visit now to learn about the dual type C ports, ergonomic design, and intelligent cooling of the Ally X. You will make me smile if you buy an Ally X. You're gonna make me blush.
Welcome to A&W. Same great taste, even faster. A&W drive-thru.
So it's come to my attention that a lot of you didn't think the podcast was real. The Noodles and my podcast was real when we talked about it. The evidence is overwhelming in favor of it's real. You know? So I don't understand. I just don't understand. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what you want from me. Here is evidence of us talking about making things.
For at least 3 or 4 days straight into what Sam described as a 1 to 2 hour long endeavor, all that I heard about was Big Buck Bunny.
It is called Final V3, and you can find it in all the places. Please find it.
Para colocar só.
What the fuck was that? No, there was another. What the fuck is that? Oh my god. Oh, it's one of the... Welcome back to Worm Gaming. Okay, crater time. If you haven't seen watch the video, you might want to. Here's a link. You don't have to. He uses other people's words. I'm about to dissect this video and tell you what I think about it. And you're going to have an easier time following along if you've seen the thing. You don't have to, though. You know. Slurs. Anyway, the video is roughly formatted like this. We have an opening statement, we spend a little chunk of time establishing the groundwork, which in this case is the difference between Zelda 1 and A Link to the Past. We have the actual bulk of the video, a conclusion, an unhinged venomous rant, an extra 5 minutes tacked onto the end out of obligation, and the actual ending. Okay, I'm gonna level with you. We're both looking at the same thing here. I know how this comes off. I really mean what I'm about to say. Save for that last bit, this video is, in my opinion, brilliantly structured. It feels like a rant, and at times it kinda is, but it is meticulously arranged in such a way that everything Aaron says builds towards a few central points.
In any case, the nature of Z-targeting forced Zelda to be more combat-centric, and with it, the world was forced to change, but it didn't.
It might feel nonsensical, sporadic, or meandering, but aside from being an energy I'd fuck with, these moments help him to build arguments while also illustrating his subjective experience.
You still push blocks, only now you can't push them when you're engaged in combat, and you still open doors by shooting slingshots at eyeballs in the wall. Is that a puzzle? Like, seriously, is that a puzzle? Is looking around the room and finding an eyeball on a wall really super fun for people?
Like, if you don't already hate his guts, this is way more relatable than someone just being like, you see, puzzle is in Zelda. When solving puzzle, the player should feel smart. According to Wikipedia, ludonarrative Now in Sequelitis' case, it can verge on Hitlerian, and it doesn't work for everyone, which we will get to post-haste. But make no mistake, it's very deliberate. Even the jokes, while at times feeling like it's just complete non sequiturs.
Fine. I mean, I go to Disneyland like 6 times a year. I fucking love the Blue Bayou restaurant. They got great food. Oh, that's a little pricey, but you know what, it's worth it.
Still almost always reinforce the point he's trying to make. That one's loosely about enjoying something despite its flaws. It's stupid. I know. That's the point. You might think I'm overanalyzing this, but find me more than a handful of examples in the video where a joke undermines anything Aaron says. It's very rare. When you break it down, it becomes obvious that this script was very thoughtfully structured. Just as with his older videos, Aaron is using wet analysis to keep his viewers engaged. Again, it doesn't work for everyone, and that's fine. You know who it definitely doesn't work for? I don't know. Maybe the people you introduced yourself to by comparing them to a fucking homunculus. Sun Tzu. This is a small point compared to some of the other problems I have with this video, but one of the most infuriating things is that every problem I have compounds every other problem, until it becomes impossible to appreciate what the video does right without it being undermined by all the ways Aaron unintentionally alienates the very fucking people he is trying to reach. I want you to imagine yourself in the position of someone who grew up playing A Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. It's your favorite game. You fell in love with it. It was unlike anything you experienced before as a kid. Now remember that you just watched a fat, ugly, stupid, strawman, freakazoid depiction of yourself getting tossed out of a 12-story window. Aaron didn't just make fun of you here. He drew a line that separates himself from you. And then he talks about the game like this.
You gotta go talk to Zelda. Oh, the world is... And then Impa's like, hey, you know, this is really important, so I'm gonna give you this note to give to this guy. I don't care!
If you just compared me to a moron, and then you proceed to act like a moron for the bit, it doesn't matter how good the bit is, dude. I'm not gonna think you're funny. I'm gonna think you're a dickhead. When they aren't landing, these jokes aren't structural tools anymore. They're just salt in the wound. This video seems to have a real problem with understanding where the opposition is at emotionally. It's not just that he comes off hostile. Time and again, he says things that are completely agreeable in a vacuum.
A puzzle is something you have all the information for. The only thing standing between you and the solution is your own ability to put the pieces together in the right way. The satisfaction you obtain from solving a puzzle is from the aha moment, when the pieces fit and you have only yourself to blame for it.
Then he has to go and talk about how he experienced the thing as if it's a universal truth.
If you're missing a piece, how are you supposed to even get to a conclusion? You rack your brain, run in circles, go, what do I fucking do? Until you find the last piece on a whim, and suddenly it all makes sense. You say, well, shit! Or, come on.
He talks as if his experience chafing against Ocarina's puzzles is a relatable experience to someone who's been playing the game since it came out 15 years prior. Like, have you ever been to a party? You know, you meet new people, and one of them's like, hey, everyone, we should all go to the local U-Haul and attach padlocks to stranger storage units. And you expect everyone to agree and clap and have sex. You were extremely articulate. But instead, only 1/3 of people agree. 1/3 is fucking with the energy, I guess, and 1/3 gets really pissed off? And now you're the weird one? Here's the thing. When you frame things that people don't already agree with as inherently agreeable, you risk alienating them. You tell someone about how they apparently had problems with something they didn't have any problems with, they're likely to get defensive. Not just because you're criticizing the thing they like, not just because you're being really aggressive about it, but because now you're saying shit that straight up just is not true. This is such an easy problem to solve. All you gotta do is switch up your wording a tiny bit. Look! Because I was missing a piece, I couldn't figure out how to get to a conclusion. I racked my brain, ran in circles, and what do I fucking do? Until I found the last piece on a whim, and suddenly it all makes sense. I was like, well, shit! Or, guys, I know how to get into the U-Haul without alarming security. There are a couple instances where he actually says things like, I think, or I feel, but it is not enough as fuck, dude. This shit ain't. He does the same thing with the bombs.
Z-targeting helps, but what if there are enemies around you don't want to target onto? You just want to see straight. You just want to fight and throw a bomb!
He does the same thing with the complaints about the time wasting.
You should never, ever, ever hit that point where you're like, I'll check that room later. In a game about checking rooms!
He does the same thing with the spinny death pucks.
Sliding spiked death pucks coming out from around the corner you can't see is just bad fucking design. It's bad design in any game. It's no different in Zelda. You don't get a get out jail free card. You gotta roll 3 times. In the first Zelda, you see that shit. In Link to the Past, you see that shit. In Ocarina, oops!
Okay, that last one is a little tricky because in a literal way, he's objectively correct. You can't see these obstacles all the time like in older games. But the way he exclusively shows instances in which taking damage was avoidable, if challenging, probably had a lot of Zelda fans asking if Aaron has any concept of object permanence. He makes it really easy for people to assume he's mad because he just sucks at the game or he's playing it wrong. Philosophers have gone on to call this Donkey's Death Stranding video. It's like Aaron's just not thinking about how a Zelda fan would feel watching this. Which is insane, because that's literally the whole fucking point of the video! Let me give you a different example. What's a game people like? Skyrim. Everyone loves Skyrim. Which of these two arguments would you expect a Bethesda fan to be more receptive to? A, there's a lot to love about The Elder Scrolls V, but the more I play it, the more it frustrates me. I wish I was able to just turn my brain off and exist in this gorgeous world Bethesda created like I used to be able to as a teenager. But it's hard to overlook combat I find floaty and unchallenging, or traversal I find either repetitive or empty. I feel like something's wrong when your players default to skipping large parts of your game the second you let them. I kinda hate it. Or B, I fucking hate Sky. I hate it so much, dude. The combat is floaty and unchallenging. The traversal is a joke. The whole game design feels cowardly. Like Bethesda was scared of forcing players to actually engage with their dog shit mechanics, enabling them to just skip or ignore large portions of it. If Breath of the Wild's influence was a blessing, then Skyrim's was a curse. Fuck this game. Comment below if the little gamer within is mad. Skyrim fans, here's a quest marker. It leads to the comment section. Here's 50 skeletons, so you know that people died here. The environment tells a story. See that mountain? Collect 8 pages. The complaints about time wasting, I think, suffer the most for this. The video's constantly coming back to this idea that Ocarina looks at things that were quick and snappy and changes them to take up more of your time. And that's all it does. Aaron also doesn't like being forced to engage with certain parts of the game, like the story. He values player agency, a thing that Zelda 1 is all about, but that Ocarina sometimes overlooks. This makes sense. It's the same argument you hear from those who are turned off by movie games, like The Last of Us. This is a valid preference that I completely understand, especially when you're coming into Ocarina with the knowledge and love of previous entries where these little moments of downtime didn't exist. That would annoy me too. What I do not understand is why that complaint was articulated like this.
God! There's so much waiting in Ocarina. You gotta wait for a door to close. You gotta wait for a character to stop talking. You gotta wait for the dialogue box to tell you how to use bombs for the 47th goddamn time. Wait for the switch to make a music tone and open a door across the room. Wait for Link to go flying backwards and then get up off the ground. Wait for bombs to blow up. How fucking long does it take to switch between worlds? You gotta play the Prelude of Light. Say yes. Watch the cutscene. Walk up to the Master Sword plot. Watch the cutscene. Walk out of the Temple of Time. Play whatever song brings you the closest to where you want to go. Say yes. Watch the cutscene, and walk all the way to where you want to be! In Link to the Past, you equip a mirror, press a button, you're there. What the fuck am I doing with my life? I am harshly criticizing Ocarina of Time on the internet. I'm gonna get crucified!
To me, this is funny. Ergo, I laugh. To a die-hard Ocarina fan, who has infinitely more patience for the game, who sees none of this as an issue, and who has been primed by Aaron to view him as an enemy deep within their primal lizard brain, the part that makes you want to kill with rock, this is fucking unhinged. Like, of course, people are gonna respond negatively when the video focuses exclusively on flaws. If it completely ignores what about these experiences people value. Walking across Hyrule is a gigantic waste of your time if you aren't captivated by the game's atmosphere, its technical significance, its story, if you aren't excited about what's waiting for you at your destination, a thing he himself clearly values in the Link to the Past. How can you expect people to hear you out if you don't make clear that you understand their point of view first? It is absolutely deranged to me that this video spends so little time even acknowledging what the game gets right. It's like the easiest olive branch to extend as a writer-reviewer, and it's so easy to do with Ocarina. Talk about how groundbreaking it is. Talk about the brilliant music and its implementation. Talk about its aesthetic, its atmosphere, its art direction, its lasting impact. Give the people something to latch onto. I'm sorry, but a minute-long overview and a brief aside about one boss battle is just not enough. I'm not saying he needed to spend another 20 minutes singing the game off and sucking its praises, but the apparent disinterest in even acknowledging what this objectively groundbreaking game got right runs the risk of making Aaron come off as not understanding what makes Ocarina so special. You have to give the people something they can use to see you as anything other than the devout hater you've positioned yourself as in their minds. I get that it can be boring to praise a thing everyone already loves. I get that's not why you're here, and I get that when something makes you mad, you're less willing to see the good in it. But hey, as we've established, that cuts both ways. Aaron knew that this video would piss people off. He makes jokes about it at the beginning, in the middle, in the description, and even has a little bit at the end about not wanting to anger people that really should have been at the beginning, where it might have actually made a goddamn difference.
Now it's time for me to write my post-emptive counter-argument.
Alright, fine. You watch the video, that's only fair. I mean, I've been throwing my opinion at you for 30 friggin' minutes. Just because you might like Ocarina of Time and I don't, doesn't mean that you're not a beautiful person. Because you are. Look at yourself. Oh, I would kiss you if I could. But I can't. I'm a cartoon.
He knew there would be backlash, but he only fanned the gamer. I mean, for God's sake, I cannot stress enough. The first joke in the video all but portrays Aaron as the enlightened, Chad-like thought genius preparing to effortlessly outwit the soy-inducing, brainlet, cringeozoid super fanboy. If I'm on the receiving end of that, I'm not going to be receptive to your critique. Never mind the jokes that are also fundamental to the video's pacing. By starting off with a straw man's depiction of the kind of viewer he hates, and by failing to illustrate any other depiction of an Ocarina fan, Aaron creates an intro that is all too easy to read as hostile to anyone who disagrees with him, actively separating those willing to listen from those not willing, or worse yet, those who like the game from those who don't. And the rest of the video just piles on additional problems. He does a shit job speaking subjectively, he doesn't meet fans halfway, he doesn't think about where the viewer is at, and he leaves almost no room for reflection. This drives me fucking crazy! Because this could have been a fantastic video! At times, his observations are on point, especially for being written 10 fucking years ago, dude.
Turning a 2D game into a 3D game, it ain't easy. It ain't even fucking quantifiable. How do you take the simplicity of form that 2D allows, give it a z-axis? The more specific you get about situations analogous to reality, the more you have to stipulate on.
A lot of the stuff Aaron is criticizing is stuff that the industry has collectively learned from. In fact, at times, I think he comes off as prophetic. His complaints of formula over innovation, story over gameplay, excessive handholding, wait times, these are all things that Breath of the Wild addresses directly. A game that is now widely considered one of the best.
Shigeru Miyamoto once described his idea for Zelda coming from the feeling he got from wanting to explore caves near his house as a child, which led to an amazing game where you explore caves and dungeons and found wondrous things. The irony is that when it came time to make sequels, Nintendo cared more about the things that were found, rather than the mystery itself.
Even the jokes, you know, when they aren't insulting people or slurs, they can be really fucking funny.
You're not discovering a world. You're being taken on a tour. You're no longer a pioneer adventurer. You're a guest at Disneyland. Here's your ticket. Be sure to check out Space Mountain Indiana Jones before you leave. Guess Goofy's weight. Win a prize. 120 pounds? No. It's too low.
So much missed potential, man. Like, just imagine if Nakey Jakey opened his Red Dead 2 video with a skit where he portrays Rockstar fans as disgusting, deviant troll monsters. Just imagine the reaction. But no. Instead, he smartly realized that he was jumping into the gaming discourse equivalent of a septic tank and chose to position himself as the relatable average gamer he is, and not some hate-baiting jerk-off.
I stand in line to get their games at midnight. The last video I uploaded was a fucking country music video about how excited I was for Red Dead 2. You get the idea, I'm a gamer girl. So just know with this video, I'm not just trying to stir shit or play devil's advocate to be a unique little snowjake. I'm not unique.
Fucking Adam Neely makes videos about music and music theory that can occasionally be seen as a bit controversial within those communities, but he's similarly careful to position himself as a knowledgeable guy looking to contextualize the sensationalized, rather than Hitler posting.
If streams are to be believed, she is the most famous living jazz musician, so we here in the benighted jazz community are so thankful for our new savior. Which is unfortunately the narrative that's currently being pushed, and I would like to take the opportunity in this video to very lightly push back on that narrative and put it into some badly needed historical context, because it doesn't really do anybody good, least of all, Loewe herself.
Harold Bomber, man, makes videos about controversial topics all the time, and he uses very inflammatory language.
In the late 90s, an anti-vaccine movement started to pick up steam, claiming that they cause autism.
And the movement has plenty of washed-up celebrities flushing it, including what's-his-name, and that one, and some more. Here's 45th President of the United States, Donald Trump, coming out against medicine.
But, crucially, Vaccines a Measured Response isn't primarily an attempt to reach anti-vaxxers, because those people aren't likely to be swayed by a YouTube video. Again. The antagonism isn't directed at anyone watching. As a believer of modern medicine, you're more likely to warm up to Harry when he does this, and because of that, you're also more likely to be receptive when he shows empathy for those manipulated into believing a conspiracy theory.
People can invest a lot of ego and pride in not accepting evidence that contradicts their beliefs about the world. And it really doesn't help that there are hundreds of people exactly like Andrew Wakefield who are ready to tell them everything they believe is already true, and they just need to buy their supplements, or DVDs, or cooking hacks, and enable people to convince themselves that they don't need to do any more thinking, for a small fee, of course.
These are all examples of successfully navigating inflammatory shit while pissing off as few people as possible and pissing them off as little as possible. Fucking this up rends your video or essay or tweet meaningless. No, less than meaningless. Instead of everyone clapping and kissing and having sex and installing padlocks, you end up just creating a vehicle to shout your frustrations at people. Only those who already agree with you are gonna fuck with what you're saying. It's not healthy. Not for you, not for anyone else subjected to it. You have logged on to Twitter.
You know, I never minded the motion controls.
Oh yeah, dude. I love the part in Mario Galaxy where I have to jerk off every time I want to stomp a Goomba.
Okay. Well, first of all, you can't call them that anymore.
I feel like this is something everyone should be thinking about, whether or not they're you know, an annoying YouTuber. I'm no exception. I'm very conscious of how I come off. Fuck this. Don't stop looking. Remember the interpolation video? There's a lot I'd like to change about it, but I think one of its biggest failures is exactly the same as sequelitis. I alienate the opposition. That video was either cathartic, informative, or inflammatory, never persuasive. I consider that a failure. And if I had been thinking critically about videos like Aaron's years ago, rather than fuck it, we ball, it's a failure I might have avoided. The idea of positioning yourself a certain way to people is universal. It's been around longer than words have, and people obviously use it maliciously all the time. Buy gas from Chevron, guys. But the reality is that we are human beings. We are emotional creatures. We respond differently to various types of stimuli. If I start spouting what you perceive as some poppycock horse shit, you're much less likely to listen to my arguments or respond to my NeoGAF thread. If you want to have a conversation with other human beings, you have to think about how you come across while having that conversation. Optics. Positioning. Ethos. Take it or leave it, I don't care. Just saying, though. You know who else didn't agree with me? Hitler. Sun Tzu.
Why video bad?
I don't know, man. I just don't think it's awesome enough.
Most overused joke in all of media.
Possibly the thing where people will just play a clip of something that they think is funny instead of telling a joke. Like, tell a joke. You can't just put a thing that's funny in your video and that's the joke. You have to tell jokes.
It's not funny! Do you think you're gonna make a final V3 podcast after every major video or just certain ones? Because either would be cool, I think.
I don't. We just talk about whatever we want. So, I mean, it comes up, but like, it's whatever.
Why video good?
Because it's like awesome.
Do you need to know how to draw in order to animate, specifically in 3D?
You don't have to know how. I don't even know how to draw very well. You know, it helps, but there are plenty of very talented 3D animators who aren't very good with a pencil, so...
Can you DM me the footage for your full playthrough of Frogger 2 on the Xbox 360?
No.
Any plans for another long, more narrative-driven animation like I Should Leave This Mall? Would love more straight-up animation.
Yeah, you know, I'd like to, but the thing is, the writing of that video, I think it sucks. So I'd want to get like a good writer on the project, or I would want to make something where writing is not important. So I'll get back to you on that.
What is your cat's problem?
Too stupid, not awesome.